Welcome to Lead Poison.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Lead Poison podcast, brought to you by youcanpaint.com.au. Please head to youcanpaint.com.au for issue 1 of their how-to series, How to Paint Your House and Save Thousands. My name is Jack, your host, and this evening on the show we are joined by Brisbane Artist and founding member of Mayne Line Art studio, Jordache. Like many of our guests, Jordy's journey in art began with green bags full of paint and a rebellious spirit. What sets him apart is his steadfast dedication to developing as an artist beyond the tumultuous world of graffiti. Although letter-based art will forever play a role in Jordache's life, his authentic and unique talent is evolving to rarified heights. Jordache's paintings are vibrant, expressive, imaginative, and convey movement and emotion. What's most impressive, though, is his approach to art and creativity as a humble practitioner in the midst of a lifelong journey. His efforts to push the boundaries of aesthetics and his constant focus on growing as not only an artist, but as a father, partner, and member of his community pays credit to the type of person Jordache is. I'm grateful to have connected with Jordache and look forward to seeing what lies ahead for him and his colleagues at Mayne Line. To see some of Jordy's work, visit his Instagram page at JORDACHE followed by 3 underscores. His website jordache.com.au is currently under construction, so stay tuned for more. As always, I hope you enjoy the discussion, and please leave a rating or review on whatever platform you're listening from.
One thing I did want to ask you actually, man, was about your uncle. I saw that you said your uncle was a breakdancer. When you were younger, was like one of the first people that you sort of recognised doing that type of thing. Can you tell me a little bit about him and about breakdancing and how you sort of noticed breakdancing?
Yeah, totally. So he's my uncle by marriage. So my auntie's partner. And when I met, she's not heaps older than me. She's the youngest of my dad's siblings, I guess. But yeah, I remember being super young when probably in primary school. Well, it wasn't primary school, like grade 4 or 5. And he was already breakdancing a lot around the world and doing like Battle of the Year and stuff like that, and teaching as well. And then my cousin and I were just so interested in it, so we went along to a class. And we saw them doing it first, like just in meetups and stuff like that. It used to be in the PCYC in the Valley. And then we just started practicing and getting into it. And it was also like, thinking back now as a kid, it was always on the south side, and living on the north side, you know, as a parent, it's like, man, that's such a long drive to like commit to kids. So anyway, we did as much as possible. We made videos at home too. But, you know, through the breakdancing, there was also, you know, like the writers and the graffiti and the music, and, you know, even just like the culture of just rocking, you know, and just doing your thing. And that's, you know, that was really cool, especially as a kid. Like, you get so G'd up when you're a kid, and when you're a bit older, you always egg the kids on to just go for it. So I think even just looking back, older dudes being like, you know, just bust it. And it was really cool. It was like, you know, it didn't really matter what age you were in that. Just like in the hip hop culture, I guess, with graph and breakdancing and music, and it sort of doesn't really matter what age you are. You just all vibe on that culture.
Yeah, 100%, man. Did you follow that sort of interest in breakdancing? Did you stick with it for a little bit, or was it just a few times?
Oh no, we did it for a while. Me and my cousin did it. Like, we were getting into it and we went ham for ages on it. But I think being super young as well, like I sort of got really interested in the graffiti side to it, and the music, man, like break beats and just like boom bap hip hop. I kept doing it for years, and then it wasn't until later on, actually, like a lot later in life after high school, I finally met older dudes who were also, I guess, like around the same age, who were breakdancers and kept doing it, and then just lost it during high school anyway. They stopped doing it and just kept sort of more doing the graffiti thing and skating. But yeah, it was, man, at the time, obviously, like as a kid, if you could get around and things were a lot easier to access when you're young, you'd be a lot more involved in it. Like we loved it, but yeah, like I said, it was on the other side of town, and then by that point, my parents had got divorced anyway, so the ties to that family just naturally ended up drifting apart.
Yeah, it's breakdancing's an interesting one because from speaking to heaps of writers from back in the day, especially, it used to play well, I don't know if it's the right way to put it, but it did used to play a much bigger role than it plays today in terms of the hip hop culture. Like it used to be huge, from what I can tell. Breaking and breakdancing events and things like that. I'm sure there's still a massive community, but a lot of the writers I've spoken to started out breaking in the beginning and then moved into graffiti and music and things like that.
That's how I found it, for sure. It's the aesthetics that come along with b-boying. But yeah, you're right. I think, to be honest, the culture of breakdancing, it's it's for the heads. It's one of those type of things. And in this mainstream world, it's something that isn't really palatable for everyone. When you boil it down to the nitty gritties, it's just there's definitely like scenes for it all around the world. It's and probably in Australia too. Just I think in Brisbane particularly, it's one of those niche sort of things you can go to, but for sure there's always plenty of things on, and there's still heads around and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I guess speaking to I've got a friend of mine who lives in oh fuck, he's gonna listen to this and he's gonna kill me. I think he lives in San Francisco, but he's a breakdancer, and he was explaining to me that it's really hard to monetize breakdancing, like as in commercially, and that might play a role in why it might not be so prevalent anymore, because it's just hard to make money. It's definitely an art of passion. Whereas, if you're an artist, I guess like yourself, you can move into different worlds and sort of make a life. As a breakdancer, I can imagine it can be pretty hard to do that as a full-time sort of hobby.
You could do like choreography dancing on the side and then get a 9 to 5 that way. But you're right, it's hard to. I think it's very consistent amongst that sort of world. I think it's just hard to monetize something that's so enriched with culture. It's priceless and worthless at the same time.
And there's also no products that really go with it. Like, I mean, there's not much stuff. With graffiti, you got tins, you got markers and sketchbooks, but b-boying, it's just you need a piece of cardboard and a helmet if you want to go with a helmet. But other than that, you don't really need anything.
No, but it was, I think, like back in, even tying it back to then for me, like Air Max 95s or Air Max 90s or Air Max 1s were always associated to me with like b-boys or riders or
totally.
hip hop heads. And same in that culture, man. The Echo, it's funny we're talking about this, but I had some old DVD tape. Oh, sorry, mini DV tapes. Oh, fuck, high 8 tapes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I had some of those buried away, and it's just, I remember doing it, but the covers, I just wrote on it like breaking, but I haven't been able to watch it yet. But I just remember I had this dope Echo bomber tracksuit, like top to bottom, matching hat. It was grey. It was so sick. It was huge. I'd wear it in primary school and it'd be like 2XL. But yeah, I just can't wait to look back at that. And I saw a picture of Wicked Force crew when they went overseas, and it was when they were sponsored by Echo at the time. And Echo was huge. I think like when Echo came out, it was such a b-boy hip hop graffiti brand that was real dope. And they had the Mark Echo Getting Up graffiti game too at the time, which was fucking sick.
Yeah, 100%. And that mixtape as well, it seemed like everyone had that floating around at one point.
And the Battle of the Years as well. That was I remember watching heaps of those with other guys who weren't even into breakdancing, but they were writers.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, I mean, where you're from, Brisbane, is sort of home to the Hype Twins, who are most well-known breakers in Australian hip-hop history, the Rapid Fire Crew and B-Boy All-Stars, and they did a lot, man. Commercially as well, which is really good. Like, it's interesting, back in the day, like they were doing stuff on, network television, big sort of commercial projects that they were involved in.
Well, bro, it's coming back. It's coming back, man. The 90s, like, you look at the 90s and what that represents and look at what's going on now, it's definitely like taken a bit of 90s influence. And I think the kids dress like they're from the 90s and all that underground rave culture's popping off too, and just like all that sort of shit. So I reckon there'll be a time again that the B-boys will come back in full effect.
I mean, I guess another thing is it's really hard to do. So, I mean, like, it's such a difficult thing to get good at just because of the physical sort of, you know, it's really physically challenging. Like, it's a hard fucking thing to learn, man.
Yeah, man. But once you, depends too. Like I like the idea of rocking and just like, and not always like doing power moves and stuff like that. But I really vibe on dudes who just fuck with a dope style and can just rock it like a G. And then, you know, that for me is like, that's what breaking is. And then, I guess, yeah, fuck, you got to be fit, man.
Tell me where you first got into graffiti, or I guess where you first got into art and how that moved into graffiti. Usually, you know, for me, it was sort of during high school. When was that time for you?
Yeah, so that's, I mean, it's kind of good we're talking about the breaking, but yeah, so as a kid, I guess finding graph and then seeing the old covers like from Wild Style and Beach Street and all that sort of stuff as well. And then so I was doing bubbler letters. I remember doing that in primary school on the chalkboards with mates and just, you know, just thrashing the whole thing and then going to lunch. But it was just so fun to do it. Like it wasn't even, I don't even think we knew what graffiti was or if that was the thing. It was just like, oh, dope bubble letters. And yeah, and so even my nan, she did like really nice calligraphy. So there was always that when I was always at Nan's house with my cousin, she'd always just have really nice handwriting, and she just started teaching us, I guess, like that side of just different ways of doing letters, I guess, rather than like calligraphy. You know, but that was also very interesting to me. And then, you know, growing up really in high school, I remember doing my first piece and it was so funny. But me and my mate just, you know, we got into it in high school, like probably like 16. I remember at 16 doing a piece and, you know, just doing the most wackest piece, trying to do everything all with like a couple of tins. And thinking at the time too, when we did it, that it was huge. That's what makes graph so fun, hey? When in those moments, in those years when it's so, you're just so unbeknownst to like all the shit of like, I don't know, the joyfulness of just going out and doing some shit for yourself.
100%.
And then when you get a kick out of it yourself and be like, yeah. And on the big scale of things, it's like minute, but to you now it's like everything. I love that. But yeah, so like, I guess growing up in Brizzy too, like there was always just, you know, just always had a mad scene before the buff hit. So it was quite, like where I grew up as well. It was like right at the end of the line. I remember seeing panels like quite a lot as a kid, like not even kind of knowing or like getting, you know, G'd up on it, but just looking at them and like, oh, that's cool. Those cool colors and looks sick, but never really thinking about, yeah, like why someone did it. I guess I just looked at it for, I guess, colors on the train or something, graffiti and having really cool letter structures. So I was always like super interested in just letter formation anyway. And I've always just been interested in colors and just blending, I guess, being creative. And letters was a different way to do it. I thought it was so unique to see graffiti and just see what guys could do with letters and in different spots and, you know, and then applying that to, you know, obviously like different areas of graffiti. It was just so interesting to me. When I started doing it, I just fell in love with it. It was such a, oh man, like, yeah, like, you know, I think that whole time disappearing when you're in that, when you're doing graph or you're drawing or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's something that a lot of people from the outsider's perspective don't really get about graffiti is sort of the types of things that you feel and what it actually does to you doing graffiti, because it is powerful stuff, man. It's I guess some people can just throw off graffiti as just writing on shit, but what it does to an artist or to someone that wants to get into art to go out and do graffiti is you know, it's really meaningful in a lot of ways, especially looking back. I think sometimes at the time you're just doing what you do, but maybe you take it for granted or something like that. But it is really, you know, it's a time of solace and it's a good time to just express yourself.
It is. It's like, you know, I'm very grateful for being able to, I guess, like keep that energy that I had with graffiti in my fine art, I guess, approach to where I want to go and nurture like I really do love the feeling that I could be in that state doing graph. You know, it's completely different, but that moment, and just, yeah, when you do look back at those times that you spent, you know, in late nights, early mornings, or whatever it is, and like dank, you know, smelly fucking places, and then it just all disappears. And that, when you're painting and you look back at it, and it can just take you back there, you know. And I think it's like a portal, you know. You just go into this your own little world, and it's really nice to feel. And I think everyone has that form of escapism, but I think graffiti and people who do graffiti, there's just this other element of something different, something unique.
Was art in school for you? Were you particularly interested in art class at school, as opposed to the rest of the regular sort of schooling programs or classes?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I took it more seriously, but I always did art in class. I have like really vivid memories of art classes, actually, like especially, we'll start from the get-go, but grade 2, I remember getting grilled for colouring in this fucking stupid picture differently. And I went outside the lines and added things on. And I just remember like the teacher just grilled me a bit. It's crazy to think though, like how the memory of that for me I can still carry that with me through art, and remember how being told how to do art, and then my approach to being like, how the fuck can you tell someone to do art? If their art's their art and they say it is, then who the fuck are you to mess with that?
Yeah, 100%, man. That might have played a role in sort of how you view art and your position, man.
I remember it and just being like, what a fuckhead.
Yeah.
But man, in high school, definitely, like I did the non-OP art, and you know, it was just easy breezy. It was only like 3 of us in the class, or 4 of us, and we just sat there and drew. There was another kid who used to do graffiti too, and we just pretty much, just sketch pieces and just read mags. But not towards the end of grade 12. I don't know. There's a switch that flicks, but you just sort of take things. I don't know. You look at things differently. I did anyway. And then I started actually applying myself to art probably in the last month or 2 months of school, and I actually just loved it. And then went, oh, okay, kind of wish I took that a bit more serious. And then I dipped out, and then I still did shit on the side, but I never really took it seriously until the last 3 or 4 years, about, I guess, the more fine art side to painting and expressing. And it was always just graffiti. And so, yeah, I mean, it's only just been a recent thought. I've always been interested, though. I've always loved seeing art and always just found it in other ways. But
moving out of high school and getting in and sort of getting more heavily involved in graffiti, were you drawing and creating art other than graffiti during those years when you were painting pretty heavily, I assume?
No, man, I didn't. I wasn't. Well, I was always just sketching letters and pieces, and, you know, I'd fill books, and just, that's pretty much all I'd do. I'd try and do other stuff, you know. I'd like to be like, oh, I'll do a little character, but then I'm just like, nah, I don't. I just love letters. I love fucking with the combination of letters and seeing how far you can stretch things and bring things in and make things look oblong, but not. I don't know. So yeah, I always just spent all my time sketching the letters, and pretty much, I don't know, sketching for me was like painting. So the quicker I sketched, the quicker I could paint. For me, that married up really well. So the more I sketched, the easier it was for me to paint pieces, because the sketching for me is like, I don't know, I sketch so differently that when I finally go to paint a wall, it might be the last 10 sketches I've done that are in my head, and I'll take bits and pieces from each one. And then, yeah, I don't know, it's different. The other stuff, when I got into, I guess, out of graffiti and doing different type of sketching, where I'd try and incorporate, I guess, different themes, or I don't know, like, not want to say characters, but just other elements that might look like to support a piece. Even that felt weird. So yeah, I think I'm someone that I could sit there and sketch other things, and I've done it before, you know. I think we've all done that point where you try, you know, draw a fruit or make a circle look like a sphere and all that type of stuff. So I've done all that, but I don't really find enjoyment when I'm doing it. Even now, man, like I don't sketch as much at all. Like painting for me is sketching. So always sketched little things, but they're not a big dependent part of my practice doing sketches. They're just for other things.
The work that you're doing now, to think that you've only been doing that 3 or 4 years, as you said, is I mean, you must be pretty busy, man, because it looks like you're really getting into developing your style away from graffiti and sort of in the fine art world. Do you spend any time sort of on graffiti anymore? Is that something that's still part of your life?
Nah, man, it's something that, I had a daughter and stuff as well, and I think like the start of this journey for me, a lot of that because of how my relationship was with graffiti. Like, I know I'll go back to it. Like, I'll still always be a writer. I'll always have that mentality, and I know it's something for me. It's a lifelong thing. I just need to do this in my life at the moment to get to a point where all that stuff for me can just, it can all be balanced out. And to be honest, bro, like the art journey, it is like a lifelong thing as well. You might just make it at some point or whatever that means. I'm so grateful for what I've accomplished so far in my career, and it's so young. And it is so much hard work and dedication, just like graffiti. But I'm someone that can't have all these things in my life because I can't operate properly. And so yeah, I've learnt that too on my journey, to just be more respectful of myself and how I disperse my time, to not let myself down, but to not let others down.
Yeah, I guess if you've got 3 or 4 interests artistically, it's harder to sort of develop one or the other. You spread yourself a little bit too thin.
Yeah, oh, dude, but people, I mean, that's the thing. Like, there's people out there that are fucking bossing it and doing heaps of different shit, and they can operate at insane levels. And I've tried it, I've done it before, and I've been manic and doing a lot of shit. And only until like, in the last year, there was a lot of things for me that I was thinking about and just wanting to progress in my life. And also I didn't want to come into the new year and gain a whole bunch of things without letting things go. In this process I'm currently going through and just been on the last month or two, it is slowly just letting some things go that are better for my future and the future of my family, and also my well-being as an artist, and I think, and sustainability.
What do you mean by letting things go? You mean artistically, like exploring certain avenues, or do you mean things in your life?
Oh, just ask, like, I guess ventures, like,
Right,
like
yeah.
I said before, just focusing on art and just be really driven with that, and just put a lot of my time into it, and just, not accumulate more, where I mean, I don't want to overcommit in these years where I want to, the next few years for me are kind of my own personal goal and career goal, to get to a point where, I want to do a few solo shows by then and just have, a bit more of a presence and be really good at, my media and just be on top of everything. And that requires a lot of work. So when I mean that, I just mean being really focused on that and just not letting other things come really distract me, or not get too carried away in things like, I love playing basketball. That's something I love to do, and go shoot. That, like, I'll still go do that, but I just won't, go play for like 6 hours or something like that, or just, get lost in things where, it's not forever. But I realized that there comes a point at some point where you need to really just focus. And I think for me, it's just, I've had that switch, or like in the last few months, or I guess over the last year, and I don't want to, I guess, take things that I haven't learnt from last year into this year. So it's a big learning growth, and yeah, putting together a body of work, which is also going to be a lot of time and energy, and I want to do it right, and it feels right the way I want to do it, and I know there's got to be a bit of time dedicated towards that.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, I guess, being a full-time artist, each year is going to be different from the last. You're going to need to continue to sort of put effort into different things, and it's not like you can just go to the studio and paint and have fun, or whatever. I'm sure you're having fun, but you need to continually work at what you're doing to make sure that it's viable, I can imagine.
Yeah, so I think that's, and honestly, like, moving forward with the times and the way this whole world's going, like, it's just a great time, I think, for art, and there's great opportunities out there for art that I can feel it, and I just really want to honor that feeling I feel right now, and do the best I can with it, and just focus and just, I guess, also too, like I do have ventures to travel and to go see the other side of the world, and I also want to do that before, I guess, things, I don't know, this whole...
Before another variant or another 3 variants or something.
I've had COVID, and...
Really?
Yeah, I got it, and like after the new year, but for me it was different, bro. I just had like this boom, done, and then...
Just recently?
Yeah, so like 3 weeks ago.
Oh, wow. You dealt with it pretty well?
Oh, it was fine. Like I just rested and like ate so much food, drank so much water, sorted out a lot of stuff, just cleaned, did like culling clothes. It was like it wasn't even there, but I tested negatives, and honestly, like I think myself it was that. What else would it be? So it wasn't like, I don't know 100%, but I did test and came back negative, and then I just went, what else could it actually be?
Where we were staying over New Year's, my partner's brother got it, and he tested negative like 3 times, and he was sick. And then, he eventually tested positive, but he did test negative quite a few times, and he was sick in bed. So I was like, what the fuck's going on here?
Well, that's exactly what happened to me, man. I literally went to bed, sweated it out, just literally rinsed myself, and then woke up the next day and I was all good. That was weird. I had back pains though for that whole time, and but I still tested negatives, and I just went, this is weird. I bought so many of them tests before all this shit broke out. So I should say that actually people have been hunting those things down.
Has the pandemic, or the last 2 years of pandemic, to and fro's, has that changed, or has that affected your business at all in terms of clientele? Has there been more interest or less interest? Have you noticed how it's actually affected what you do it for work?
There has been, I think, I've been lucky in some ways, I guess, with it, that I've managed to just have work where that hasn't affected the operations. There was a thing last year actually that was supposed to go ahead, where I had a commission canvas to do for this gala night, which would have been amazing, but COVID just kept pushing that back again and again, and then eventually it was too high of a risk to just keep pushing it back, and it wouldn't have been done right. So they had to just pull the pin altogether, which was a shame. But I was really looking forward to that one. But I still had murals to do. I had commissions, and commissions being in the studio were quite. That's always a good time. It's not the end of the world, and I think that's why I'm just so grateful to be in this position. And honestly, that's why I'm so hungry for it. And just to. Art flourishes in all times, I think, and it's just the audience. I think the pool you're in will only provide what that pool has. And from a bigger thought for me is that I think with all the, as an artist, the ability to network is such, like that's pretty much most of the art. How you get all the art as well is just networking and just being there and being a good person. That. Opening that door up, I think, you open more opportunities for yourself. I think you'll always be sweet, even if there is a pandemic. Or there'll always be a way, and people who always have that hustle mentality and don't give up attitude will always have that.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, adapting to issues and problems is a strong skill set of any professional artist. I don't think you could become one without sort of being able to roll the punches and overcome adversities.
Oh, totally, dude. I think that's the gift and the curse of the artist. Like, adapting is something I'm quite keen to get better at in my life.
I want to talk to you about, and I want to get your thoughts on when because I know you used to be a tradesman, didn't you?
Yep.
And I want to talk to you sort of about that period between working as a tradesman and moving into art. And we sort of covered a little bit about it in what you just said, but how hard was it going from, I know you didn't have your child at that point, did you?
No.
What kind of difficulties were there moving in, and what was the thought process?
First time I had done murals. I didn't have my daughter then, and then when I fully transitioned into doing murals full time, I did have my partner and daughter then.
Was there a point in your life where you decided, look, I'm going to give this a crack. I'm going to try and become a professional artist, and I'm going to pay my bills that way and move out of being an electrician, I think you were saying you were. What was that period like for you? I mean, I can imagine it's really stressful. How hard was it finding the work? I mean, what did you do to sort of make that jump?
Well, man, that's so when that opportunity happened, it was through other people that were offering me an opportunity to work with them to do murals. And honestly, like, it was such an amazing opportunity just to be like, yeah, wow, because I'd done murals before, and then just on and off, helping other people, and the money was good too. And I thought, this could actually be quite a crazy ride and quite financially like doable. Just because there is amazing opportunities out there that you can also make quite good money from as an artist. Like, it's insane.
Were you offered a position, or were you just offered one mural?
Oh no, position with these the Brightsiders at the time. So it was the.
Oh, okay, was that your first sort of introduction into like commercial art, so to speak?
Like before that, Drapple, like I was painting a lot of graffiti at the time, and Drapple was doing his thing with murals, and I'd go help him here or there on jobs, and but that exposed me, Trav, he's definitely like paved the way here in Brizzy for doing that crazy, man. He's such a boss. And so yeah, he gave us like I went with him on a few jobs, and it was awesome. And then I just kept doing part-time work in between all that, and then I guess when Bub came and I was still working in the construction, I met the Brightsiders, and we were just painting here or there on the side, like did a few little things, and then I came on board with the boys full time, and then we we just sort of made it work and kept doing that for a few years. It is insane to, like, what you got to do for mural work though, depending on what avenues you go into. And we were doing a lot of more commercial stuff and working for like bigger companies or just like big contractors, and then we'd be contracted by them to go do the work. And with all that stuff, obviously, that comes a lot of procedures and also being really good at having documents and all that sort of stuff as well. So yeah, it was interesting, and honestly, like, I've learned so much in both ends that I'm so lucky to have that experience and just know that world and learn all that side to it. Because it's just, I think that's when people see murals, they might just be like, oh yeah, it's really easy to do this, and then it might be easy for a little cafe or something, or that's also can be the hardest job sometimes. But then you go do a construction job, and construction jobs require you to have all these things, and you got to be pretty, I guess, legal savvy and all that sort of shit when you're signing documents and contracts. And that sort of stuff has nothing to do with art. It's just like understanding that world, and so yeah,
I imagine it's probably helped you out along down the road a little bit with mainline and doing more of your own thing, having learnt sort of the processes behind that commercial art in a sense.
Oh, 100%. Learned so much, man. Like it is just the last 3-4 years for me have just been like a crazy dream, and just there's been so much learning and so much, like like I say, move forward into the new years, that I'm just so grateful for all those times. I think like I was talking to some young 20-year-olds about stuff, and I'm like, man, in your 20s, that's like, I don't know what you're doing in your 20s, but I was like partying and DJing and doing all that sort of shit as well. Yep. And I'm meeting some lot younger guys who are sort of more focusing on, like, I might start this thing, or I might do this, or invest in that. I'm like, man, that's such a good age to do it, because you have that carefree attitude. If you're smart with it, like you know what to do, or just have that risk-free time of your life where you can try to do some shit. And it's such a good age to do that. It's really inspiring.
Yeah, man. Because I guess if everything goes belly up or it just doesn't work out, you've still got enough time to sort of go down the traditional avenues of whatever fucking regular job you want to do.
Yeah, and I think you need to, bro. It's really important. It's really important to allow in your life to make mistakes and to try things that, well, for certain people it works. And I think, like, for me, I'm someone like that, and it will just be like, it's good to know when to also quit. But also, I mean, I guess that becomes, you learn that more and more, being able to see, like, this is a good option, or that's a bad option, or maybe, if I do that, then worry about this.
I don't want this to come across the wrong way, but was there any point where you thought, I'm like, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, or I don't know if this is going to work for me? I can imagine it's hard to pay the bills through art, man. I can't imagine the stresses of that.
Oh man, art, murals, all of it. It's it's just like, I guess in retrospect, it's like the musician or the actor or the actress or the comedian or whatever it is, any creative thing. To, I think, truly be valued for your work, it ties into a lot of stuff. You gotta have that hustle. You gotta be a good artist, or just just be a good artist, be a great artist, be the artist that people want to invest in, and honestly, like, all that side to it, amongst the painting, it's so much more about you and what story you're trying to tell, and honestly, all those things. And honestly, I love that about art, because it's what I love about myself as being an artist. And I show my daughter that. She says it. She's like, "You're an artist," and I'm like, "Yeah, you're an artist too, though." And it's just having that attitude. I think, like, you can turn it on and off, but showing her, like, do what you want to do, and be, believe in yourself and all that stuff as well, and just be happy with, push your passion. You can do it. Like, not everyone can do it, and that's fine. And it's hard. It's hard fucking work. And honestly, without my partner behind me with all this, like, it wouldn't even be possible. And I know that for a lot of artists, probably the same. They'd say the same thing. The support network around you is just, you're so grateful for it. It's one of the things that helps you get there as the artist. And when you get there, just to honor them and to pay them back in ways that just make them truly understand how appreciative you are of supporting your work. But there's been heaps of times, man, where it's just like, man, it's so much easier to just have a part-time job and do it. And the artists who do that, they are the ones that will sustain their art career, and I've thought about it heaps for this year, of just getting a part-time job within the art industry, and still have ties to it, but also just have that comfort and that stability and security, which allows you to create. And that's the thing, man, as well, stemming back from, like, the graffiti background. I think when you're passionate and you have that drive to paint, you just paint. And that's the same for me. Like, if I'm around a studio and I got paint around me, I'll just, I could wake up really early in the morning and just smash out a few hours of painting, and that's all and get more done in that time than in a week. So, even understanding all that, more so to do with myself, and as a practice, I'm understanding how I can keep this sustainable for myself. In the next year, 2 years and forever, I'll keep learning more about how I am as an artist. And I think this journey of art is also just understanding how you are, just being so, how do you say it, like, intimate with yourself, in the way that you just really understand what you're good at, what you're not good at, and in terms of being the artist, what's the best point of view, what makes you you. Always ask myself that, and sort of, like, mental note down things about just what it is I'm doing in this journey, and what I want to try and show people, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, man. It takes and that's a hard thing to do, what you just described, to sort of be that introspective. But it's, it's something that everyone should probably do, or attempt to do, because, knowing what you're good at, what your downfalls are, it's vitally important, especially, I think, for an artist.
Oh, yeah, dude. Fucking, especially, like, I saw this olive oil the other day and it said rich and complex.
Yeah.
Extra virgin olive oil. I went, fuck, man, that's the olive oil for artists. Rich and complex.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe, for the most part, poor and complex.
Poor, exactly. Like, I'm so glad, because when I read rich, I was like, that doesn't mean money. That just means like, I'm rich in life.
Yeah,
but can you buy a fucking Big Mac?
Yeah, fucking oath, man. No, and the reason I think I asked you about this last time we chatted, but I'm just super interested in that, the mind state that you would have, because you have to have a tremendous amount of self-belief. I just can't imagine how stressful it is to sort of move into that, especially when you've got children on the scene and a family to support. You really need to back yourself in a lot of ways. It takes a lot of confidence.
Oh, you have to, bro. That's I think that's I started realizing, not even in an ego way, but it's just I think my life for me, not even acknowledging, just I've always been quiet. I'm a single, I was an only child. Me and my cousin were just naturally good at stuff. Like we did a lot of stuff, and we were just like we were good at it. We weren't the best, we weren't the worst, but if we put our minds to something, we'd excel. We'd be really good at, I guess, whatever we put our minds to, and especially creatively. So I think but it was never the path. You never get told as a kid you can be an artist. I didn't grow up in an artistic family. No one in my family does art. Yeah, that's to me that's super interesting. Like maybe there's some past ancestral stuff down there, for sure, which I don't also I agree with. There probably is, but not being growing up and sort of thinking like I don't know. As a kid, you can look at your own drawings and be like, oh, that's cool, or like I don't know, your parents could be like, oh, that's really interesting. Something about when I was growing up with my cousin in art, we always just created these cool drawings that were just so friggin' tripped out, man, that we just always looked at it. We didn't care what people thought. We were just like, this is fucking cool. Like, we know what's going on. And I think having a bit of that, that's the childlike state of not judging. And I think that's, I constantly make sure I keep that in myself, the childlike way of viewing things without judging and just, and believing in yourself. As a kid, I always remember just being so confident as a kid. I'd fucking give anything a go. To this day, I'll just do it. Fuck it. Why not? And it's that attitude. I think you apply that to your art, and in the way that if you're creating the best work that you possibly believe in, and you feel it's so truthful and honest to you, it doesn't matter what it looks like. And I think that's breaking down barriers of what looks good and what people think it looks like. It doesn't have to look like anything. What looks good? Why do we think things look good? And you just tile back all those conversations to be like, how have you been perceived? How have you been taught to perceive art in the first place? So I think when you just believe in your art and believe in it's the feeling associated to it. I feel when I'm painting, the feelings that I put out there and I'm in the trance state that I'm sort of in when I'm painting, and time disappears. It doesn't matter what it turns out to look like. I'm just so grateful that I got into that space and felt the way I felt when I was painting. That to me, that is a good painting because of how I felt and how I was able to just zone the world out and just do shit, and then fast forward time and you just refine things and, look at it with the judgment and all that sort of shit later.
Yeah, interesting, man. That definitely comes through in someone's artwork. Yeah, how they feel when they're painting it. And I mean, it's kind of counterintuitive, but the result of the actual painting is almost less important than all those things you're describing. The process itself.
It's yeah. I guess I'd call it like process painting. I also understand that you need both of that, which I think that's in my practice. I'm working to get better at just finding that gap between, even in myself, even though I say, finding it better, but I guess always evolving and building on the last piece so that what you learnt in that last piece is employed in the next one and so forth. It just will keep growing and growing and growing. And, whatever feeling that is when it's done, I don't know what that is, but it's, I guess that counterintuitiveness needs to be balanced with some sort of definity, just because people, in the art world or just in general, we need that. We need a bit of both. And that's, I think, that's the tricky task about getting paid for paintings and just painting.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, well, let's talk about that a little bit. The other side of the coin from the process, and painting as a sort of as a method of being introspective and how you feel and what it does for you mentally and things like that. What about your style itself in terms of your fine art?
How did you sort of develop your style? I mean, it's chaotic, but still has a lot of structure, and there's a lot of shapes, but there's also a lot of things that aren't shapes and tons of color. How did you go about developing your style in fine art?
Colors, like even in graffiti, colors for me are probably like the first thing I choose. I'll go straight for colors, and then if it's a good color palette, no matter what, it'll look good. Like if the color palette looks good to people, and yeah, I don't know. It's just the process. It's just my process. I think it's hard to describe, and I think for me in the future, like I'll probably start doing more videos of me painting, just to show the process, because it is hard. I've spoken about this a lot and I always get tripped up on this, and it's when I move and I paint, I'll use certain tools or a type of brush, and it's the only way I can sort of describe it is like when I'm using a spray can, there's only sort of one output you can really get out of a spray can, right? Although caps, you can do different things, but it has this level of ability that you can't go past because of its spray paint, and you'll always just get some outcome from 1 to 100 or whatever. And I like that. I've fucking dabbled with all of it. Like I've done so much shit with spray paint and just trying to find other ways to fucking use it, and just all the different things like manipulating caps, whatever.
Yeah, that's certainly that's definitely a hallmark of Brisbane graffiti for sure, man. Unusual sort of can techniques and shit like that.
Yeah, man, and just fucking because it's just, I think the curious one will always be curious in everything, and I'm such a curious person, and just like it's like the fucking why not? Like just try it. Who cares? But yeah, I think taking that attitude into, I guess I don't even like saying fine art, man, but taking this into like painting works on canvas and paper and stuff like that, I've just found that way to maneuver paint with different tools. And I think just spending, I know it's going to be a couple more years that I'm playing around, or forever, but that's just me. I'll play around and find new things, but I do want to slow that process down where I play for like 3 years on one thing and then I play for another 3 years on something else. But yeah, like I guess it's the explosiveness that I've developed through graffiti, and honestly probably through hip hop and punk, and just being a rebel more or less. Not even graffiti, it's just having this, I've always had that like fuck you attitude to shit, to a lot of things, and especially to like society, and it's just, I think, ingrained in me, and I just feel it. So when I'm painting, I just bring that through and just be like, I just try different stuff. And I think it's just knowing when you've done something that, like, I guess you could stop and be like, oh, that bit, like, or that just tiny little flick, or that one little doodad type thing, or whatever. Like it's reflecting. I think that you can do all that stuff, but if you're not stopping and looking and observing what you're doing and how you're doing it, then it's pointless. And I don't do it for just throwing fucking paint around. Like I'm very conscious of when I'm doing stuff and when I'm moving, and when I'm moving really quick and doing shit, like I'm very conscious of it. So that other side to it is also, it's not just fucking throwing paint around and moving shit. It's all got some sort of intuitive tick or something for me anyway.
Yeah, for sure, man. No, your paintings, they're like chaotic, but it's like controlled chaos. They're really cool, and you break down this chaos with sort of geometry in a way, like a lot of straight lines and shapes and things like that, sort of woven into the art. It's really cool. What are you using in your studio? What kind of paints are you using?
I use a lot of house paint. I use Golden paints as well, which is a dope brand that I can't wait to get some more and re-up. It's like I use these high flow acrylics, and I have the heavy body acrylics as well. But yeah, that's sort of the paint side to things. Like, but to be honest, man, I'll use any paint. Like I said before, I choose colors pretty much. Like before I do an artwork, I'll pick a few and just work within that spectrum just for a while. But that, and then if I have paint laying around, that if I've got heaps of one color, then I'll use that a lot. The tools, like different brushes, man, I go through different size brushes and just different, like I like palette knifing bits and pieces of canvases.
That gives it a bit of texture, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I like how it feels. It's yeah, it's all about how it feels to me. It's kind of like, it's weird how we even say, like, I don't just get things out and go, okay, today I'm going to use that one and that one and that one.
Yeah.
It's just, I'll put music on. Like my process is, yeah, get the colors, put the music on, lay all the tools out, and then I'll just go and get whatever feels right. And I'll literally look at it and then just like, nah. And then it's like I'll look at one and I'll feel like, yep, that's the go. And then just move with it. And then, yeah, next, like throw that down. Man, it's kind of funny, to be honest. Like, because when I'm in that state, sometimes if I'm fully fucking vibing, bro, and the tunes are cranking and it's just all in a good place, I'll put shit down in random spots and then I'll spend like another 10 seconds like, where the fuck did I put it? But I'm just like rushing so much to be like, oh, got it, sweet, and then just run back and like it looks like the painting, you know, like it is. Yeah, it's funny. This is why I need to film this shit. Like I've had friends just sit there and watch and just be like,
what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, like he's just moving around doing weird shit.
Yeah, it's sick, man. I wanted to ask you, when you do commission work, how do you ensure that they last? You know, when someone's buying one of your works, in terms of the paint on the surface, do you cover them with anything, like any products, glazes or anything like that? You know, you'll have to excuse me. I'm not totally across all those things, but what do you do to make sure a painting doesn't get moldy or it's going to last for someone for years and years?
Yeah, I clear it a lot.
Yeah. Is that a spray clear?
No, I use a brush clear, like a matte. I use the matte clear. I like the matte finish, not the gloss. And I just put like probably like 4 to 5 layers on it and just gently apply it, just brush it on, let it dry, and then just keep doing that, layers and layers. But the framing, like, you know, I'm sort of moved out of that world where I just want to buy frames from the art shop or canvases. I want to make them out of good wood, you know, have special design where, you know, they don't bow, or, you know, by that point, I figure if that's where I'm at in my career and I'm doing all this stuff, then I'm able to support myself doing that, you know. So when, you know, I'm trying to take the steps where I could get to that point where, yeah, longevity for me and stuff with my paintings is really important. It's like, because of how I paint, you know, I can't replicate certain paintings. That I want to ensure that painting is well looked after. It's got a good frame. It's stretched right. It's got really good canvas. Like I don't want to buy shit canvas. The paints, you know, the paints are another thing. I don't think that doesn't really matter. The paints these days, like the oil paintings, I guess will last forever. But I just, you know, if I ever get into oils, that's another thing. A whole other thing of trying to like preserve. So acrylic paintings aren't as hard to preserve, but as long as they have a nice.
Really?
No.
I thought it would be the other way around.
No, well, oils, because of oils, well, it depends on the acrylics. You know, acrylic has plastic in it. So when you think of that, like plastic doesn't fucking break down at all for a very long time. If you clear them right, and like anything, then they will hold up. And man, the amount of different paints out there and different brands and different formulas and shit like that, it's pretty nuts what you can get these days.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, especially if you're using things like house paint. I mean, a lot
of that's they're made to last for how long?
Decades, especially in the, you know, in harsh weather too.
In harsh weather, and they're not cleared. Like those houses aren't cleared with a UV barrier protection, which is like a clear. If you're putting that onto canvas and that sits inside your house in a frame, in a, like, you know, air controlled room, that thing will last forever. I hope my paintings will last, you know, hundreds of years. And, you know, like if they don't, whatever. But with that thought, I just want to make sure that, yeah, whatever goes out with my name attached to it is the good quality.
So did you say are you stretching your own canvas and doing your own framing at the moment, or is that something you moved away from? Or did you say that's something you want to move into?
Oh, that's something, yeah, like I had a friend doing them. He built a bunch of them, incredible frames, and then you can get them made up like from art framers and just buy the individual pieces of wood, or you can get them assembled and then, you know, you can stretch your own canvas over it, or they can do it for you. So that's sort of more where the realm I want to get my canvases done is all just made to custom. Like I want, you know, just have the sizes I want rather than just going into the art shop and just picking up a canvas off the ground.
Yeah, true. One that's already framed and everything.
Yeah, like I'll still do them, but you know, in terms of sale and that sort of stuff, you know, this is just when I talk about this stuff, so I talk about this into, you know, the next decades of my life or to the end of my life. Is that like ideally like the work, people are paying good money for work too. It can be on a shit canvas, like if that's the vibe, cool. But for me, I want to just have stuff that is, it's like buying tools. Like I want it to be longevity. You just don't buy shit 5 times. You just buy something good and you buy it once. That I want my artwork to be in that category of just, it's just going to last. And the wood's good, the canvas is good.
Tell me about Mayne Line. When did you start Mayne Line, and who was around you when you were starting that, and why did you start it?
And so that was in 2018 with one of the Brightsiders boys as well. We were initially, it was just like in that state I was saying kind of earlier, it was in this manic state, but it was finding something. Like we had a place here called Jugglers, which had shut down. And at the time, like I've always felt this, I think, in me, to have a community and to be a part of a community, and a community always needs like a base or like a place that you can go to. It can't just be this like a non-tangible thing. So anyway, like at the time we're like going to get this, looking for studio spots to even just have as a studio, and then found what is Mayne Line now, found that location, and it's incredible. It was high ceilings on the train line. They had awesome bay louver windows. The landlord's an artist as well. And literally, like, there was a lot of us in the beginning. There was probably like 10 or 12 of us that helped, that came together to do this and to be the first ones there and then build it up. 2020 was when the first wave hit, and by that point had put in like gallery walls and just actually like put some infrastructure into the studio. And before that, it was just all open and dispersed. And then we didn't have any walls. It was an awesome studio, like to have as a studio. And man, like honestly, the Brisbane scene, when Jugglers was around, it was like it catered for mainly graffiti. Like it was specifically open for graffiti writers, from the guy who I guess didn't want kids getting in trouble for painting. So he provided a space for them to go and get better and practice and all that sort of stuff.
Interesting. I didn't know that was sort of the main focus of that place. What was his name, the guy that ran Jugglers?
Peter Breen.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. He pretty much is like the grandfather of graffiti in Brisbane. Like opened that door up all for writers. Like so him starting that for graffiti writers, essentially. Just what that meant. If anyone's ever been a part of Jugglers or seen what's gone through that place and what's gone on them walls and how many graffiti writers have used that place to paint and do pieces, it's pretty phenomenal. And just out of the goodness of his heart and what he believed in this community that lacked in society, it lacked love, it lacked appreciation. And that's he saw that, and I think like we were talking about it earlier, but like breakdancing, like graffiti, the culture will just never have a mainstream part in society, only when they want to make money off it and when they want to piggyback off this culture. So anyway, stepping back to like having this place at Mayne Line and creating like a community of shared artists that weren't, I guess, I've always looked at it like just like the graffiti writers in the art world type thing, where like self-taught artists, like do it yourself, create the work you want to create, have the ability to show your own work in a space without trying to tick off lists in a gallery of like, does your art have this, and is it conceptual, and blah 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 blah. That's what that place was really birthed for, was to just rid those walls and create some kind of bridge between emerging and established. Because there's this weird in-between bit where you're an emerging artist and then all of a sudden you're an established artist.
Yeah, there is, for sure.
Yeah, and there's no gap in between of like, oh yeah, well, I am sort of established, but I'm also not emerging. So yeah, I mean, honestly, like I was also going into this like blind and not knowing sort of what we're doing at the time and taking risks and just really believing in like this vision and this thing that, if you're in Brisbane, you sort of like, you've been here before, that it is it needs some sort of grunginess to it. And art scene has everything, you know. I think you need the established society, high-end society, you need the emerging, and you need like all of it to exist and to make culture better. And
100%.
I feel like somehow it's just a bit different here. So anyway, yeah, starting that was to really emphasize like we can just do it ourselves.
I didn't realize how big the place was. I just watched a video before I got on the chat with you. It's quite big, isn't it? Do they offer like multiple year leases in Brisbane? Probably a better way to put it is like a long-term leases. I mean, is there concerns that you set up a place and you're only going to be there for 12 months or something? Or do they, because I know it's particularly hard in Sydney to find anywhere further than, you know, a year or two.
Yeah, I can't imagine what Sydney's like. And I think with the boom of Brisbane and, you know, how we dealt with COVID and stuff, you know, there's a lot of people from Sydney, Melbourne moving up here. So also like, you know, commercial leases are going for quite a lot here just because of that, I think, or like a combination of things. But yeah, like it is one of those things, like I was saying before, like the landlord's an artist as well.
Well, that would help, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, him and his wife are both artists and art lovers. So it's kind of like this blessing that's just, you know, one of those like, wow, what are the odds of that? And having the ability to do what we do in there, it's just like one of those moments in time that, you know, I look back at this and just tell my daughter in like 20, 30 years time, because I've met artists here that have said there used to be so many art studios in Brisbane back in the day, and then they knocked down the buildings. Like the old bank used to be a really cool art studio for a while in the middle of the city, and there's not much footage, or I mean, there probably is, but at this day and age, with all this documentation and artist studios and all these things, like it's a great time to really just document the creative scene for these times, because there probably will be a time when all these buildings do get knocked down and just turn into high rises. And it's always, you know, it's unfortunate, but the art scene will always take the first hit.
100%. Yeah, unfortunately.
But
yeah.
No, I'm very just mindful and grateful to our creative scene and people trying to push it and hold on to the vacant spaces and turn them into something awesome.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's a shame that property prices are so valuable in this day and age because, yeah, as you said, places where people can create are the first places to get turned into basically real estate, you know, just because it's so much more valuable.
Yeah, because art doesn't get valued, you know. I mean, like art is just not it's so hard to instill value. You're like, you know, if you're not an artist or if you don't believe in art, trying to make someone feel like understand the value of art is like getting blood out of a stone.
Are you looking to create opportunities for younger artists through Mainline, or is it more just somewhere to showcase you and the other artists that you know and have a place for you guys to create?
I mean, the way it operates is literally just a shared studio. So it is just like everyone, you just pay for a spot, pay for it monthly. And it's also as well, like the personalities. It's like you can't just come in and be like, yeah, I'm keen, I've got, you know, all this. It's also like very important for everyone to get along. And I think over time you just naturally figure that out too. Like as artists, personality is probably the number one thing to have in a shared space. So even just navigating that, trying to, you know, if I'm meeting people to bring them into the space, then I need to make sure that everyone gets along with them. There's a sense of trust with people and that stuff, you know, it's just, that's just a given as well when you're sharing space with someone, and especially artists too, because you're so vulnerable. And I was actually saying this to one of the artists in there yesterday, how thankful and just how appreciative I am of everyone in the space and what we share and how we can just be so open with our artwork. And it is so special, man, because it, you know, like it's like anything, like a passion you connect on. And when you can feel so vulnerable with someone and give all the criticism and all the praise that, you know, they give you and receive it, and you give that back to them, like that exchange without any ego really attached to it, of like being so, you know, if someone's saying it's not good, we don't take it personal. It's just like, okay, what? And I think when you get to that level with people, it's just such a beautiful thing to share, because it takes a lot of time to develop that with people, I think. Or if you're with the right people, you can instantly just be that way. And I think when you have that connection, it's yeah, it's awesome.
Have you found that your art has has progressed particularly since working around other artists at the space with Mainline? I would just imagine that being around so many other people being creative would just push your art, to the next level.
Yeah, definitely, man.
That's sort of the idea with it, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's the idea, like, but it's also the personalities of like I'm someone who I could sit there and just watch other people paint and get hyped, and then I'm just so naturally be like, fuck it, I'm gonna paint, and then do that. And it's like sometimes, I think, like when I have my own studio by myself, it'll be those things I look at and just go, that is an important thing to have, this art community around you when you are painting. Yeah, like it'll just push you out of your own headspace. And I think that's what artists, that's what we need when we're creating, is to get out of your own head and be like, okay, someone else look at it, or, or like there's artists that don't give a fuck either, or I'll have it. And, I've had times where I've just done pieces by myself and no one's seen them, and I've just done them quick and been like, cool, that's done. It's also like, it's having the openness to hear people say what they say, and for you to hear it and then, take that and analyze it in yourself. But then it's also great to just have your own confidence and to also say like, oh, cool, I see what you're saying, but, I'm going to leave it or whatever. And that's also like, to be able to say that to someone and for them not to get personal about that too is a lot of trust, to be like, cool, all good, I hear you.
Has it helped with exposure in terms of clientele? I imagine having everyone sort of under one roof would make it easier for people to find you guys and to get in contact and network and things like that. Has it made a difference in terms of the business side of your art?
Man, like I've had it a few times, but to be honest, like we like having the shows and stuff like that, it is a great way for people to come see art when there is art up around, and and you can actually, people can see your work and you can have a chat, which is also great. But didn't really, I guess because we're always in a studio, like I had people come look at my work like personally, and then they wanted to come see the studio and come see all my work in person and that sort of stuff. And a few others had that as well, like bringing people to the studio, almost like a private viewing, but it was never really open. Like when we were painting, like there was a time where we had a shop and all that sort of stuff, and we were going to do like pretty much open it up as a gallery during the week. But also like it just, I was always painting too, and just still doing murals and work that the studio wasn't the number one, like stay there and do all the studio stuff. So then there was times, where we did shows, we opened it up, people came out to look, but the constant flux of paintings, I guess,
makes it hard to have like a structured opening time and things like that.
Yeah, and because people there at different times too, like
yeah,
people don't always go during the day, people go to work and then come there at night time or the weekends. But if anyone ever wanted to bring people in to showcase their work, they were more than welcome to do so. And then just by doing that too, also, if one person comes in to look at work and then they see someone else's work and go, oh, I like that too. And then, that's just that flow-on effect of that sort of thing.
What's your opinion on like opportunities for younger artists, people that are sort of earlier on in the road to where you are now, where you might have been several years back? Do you think there's enough opportunities for artists to make a life out of art? Or do you think that sort of the difficulties in getting to a place like where you are now is needed to sort of build that confidence and is a benefit to an artist? Because I often thought I was sort of vocal, and I have been vocal in the past, just, with my peers and friends and things like that, about how there's not enough places for artists to sort of develop. But I'm sort of torn into thinking that to get to a place like where you are, it might be needed to sort of have to go through all these strange loopholes, and, no two artists really have the same story. It's really interesting. Do you think that's required to become an artist, or would you like to see, just fill in the blank, more programs maybe for artists to develop, or more spaces? You think about it much?
Yeah, totally. Like a lot came to my mind then when you were talking, and I want to break it down into like two different things or three different things. But, I believe that there's an immense amount of opportunities out there for artists. There's almost like, honestly, there's so many opportunities when you really know where to look. but it also depends on the artist. And this is the thing, as an artist, I think even tying it into like every artist's opportunities are different because they're different artists, and they, you know, it's hard to work with artists that don't want to do a certain say like, you know, I've done it myself where because it's so creative, if you want to do if you don't want to do a project where you're not like, oh, this is cool, it's really hard to do it and make yourself G'd up for it, because that's what this is. Like, that's what you're doing art. And if you don't feel that fire when you're doing something, say maybe you're getting money for it though, or vice versa, you love the job but you're getting no money, you know, you got to know those things too. So, you know, in terms of no money, awesome painting, there's a lot of opportunities out there in that field. But, you know, if you do want to make money from it, then you got to know you as an artist and how you operate and what you're capable of, you know, all that stuff. So I think for emerging artists that are still, I'm still an emerging artist technically, like even though I've been painting for like fucking more than half my life, I still haven't really gone into all this world. So, you know, I'm only saying it from the best of my outside perspective and people I know. And, you know, my own experiences just with doing things. It's also like the opportunities will always also depend on, you know, like, are you a good artist? Like, what makes your art better than that art? And what makes it art? You know, like all that shit. Like, it's just, it does matter, because if you're competing against other people and you're all painting a lion and there's 6 of you that can all paint a realistic lion, well, who can paint the best realistic lion? It's not, you know, what's going to separate you from those other people? There's a lot of people out there trying to do murals and pushing into murals and painting, you know, just like recognizable things and putting together like compositions, you know, that are just quite pleasing. And it is that's very achievable, I think. Like, you don't have to be such a wizardry artist to do that. Like, you can be good with arranging things in Photoshop and, you know, the projector being such a useful tool in murals too. Like, to develop the skill in painting, it won't take that long for people to do, you know, but to teach like creativity and talent and imagination and all that shit, you can't teach someone that you have to be born with that shit. So I think, you know, when on an overall spectrum, there's these different types of artists and different avenues for artists that solely rely on where they want to go as the artist. So, you know, if you want to do murals and paint that sort of stuff and paint for council and commercial jobs where you're painting, getting good money for painting quite simple things, then, you know, you'll have a long career doing that, because there's always going to be like highway barriers and council walls and all that sort of shit, you know? So that's like, but for me as an artist, like I've sort of dabbled in a lot of stuff, and, you know, I think for me, I realized like, it's just, I guess it's also my stubbornness to love art so passionately and know that I will just get the money that way. And, you know, I can still do murals on the side. I still do that and paint, but I don't look at it as like the be all end all of my art. It's just like, you know, this will pay the bills. This is going to get me through. I still have fun doing it, but it's just, I have different avenues for my passion painting, which is canvas work and whatever I do for myself. And that's where I think my creativity fully comes out of me.
Is the goal, is a commission sort of the goal, to be able to solely paint commissions, or to be able to support yourself through commission work so you can work in the studio full time?
Yeah, I think just more painting my canvases. Like, I'll do commissions here and there. I think my end goal, like, I'll still do commissions, but I think I'd ideally love to just pick and choose those commissions. But I just paint. Like, I just want to be in that space where I can just paint whatever I feel. Like, I'll produce bodies of work rather than painting for, 10 commissions or something. It was just 10 paintings and I paint them, and then that's my product. And then, if people want commissions, it's fine. I know, also just understand how I operate as a painter too. And I've done commissions and I like doing them, but it's only when I'm truly just painting what I want to paint and I'm in my zone and just carefree about expectations and what, who this is for, or what the amount on this painting is, or, will I sell it? I think I have all that in my mind. it doesn't limit me from just creating and doing what I need to do with paint. The exhibitions, like I'll do exhibitions and all that sort of stuff, and I want to do exhibitions all over the world. So that's something for me as an artist is what my career goal will be aimed at going towards.
Yeah, and I guess that's predominantly the way that you would generate interest for your art if you were just painting outside of doing commissions. Is that how you sell work that you do in the studio? Do you go and exhibit it and then hopefully people buy it when they're looking at it? Is there any other avenues that you go through to sell work that you haven't done for a particular person?
Well, I haven't actually done an exhibition yet. I've exhibited some paintings within group shows and stuff. I don't think one of them sold, or maybe a couple of them sold, but not many. But then I've had shows. I was part of one group show at Mayne Line, like the first proper group show I think that we did just as artists in residence, and I was lucky enough to sell, I think, 3 or 5 of those. So yeah, I've had inklings of it, and I think, yeah, it's such a it's like a psychological thing trying to sell paintings too, because if they need to be in the right setting to also be sold for, I guess, what you'd say enough to eat on, or like just enough to make money back and have some profit. Me as an artist is better. That's the better avenue for me, and also I love the networking. I love the face-to-face chats and all that stuff that comes with the art when I'm in that space. So like exhibiting work, I love to be in the space, talking to people, meeting people, and that's also half of what I love about painting and doing paintings is that it can look, you have this physical thing that has a tangibleness to it on the wall, which you can talk about, but it's also the connections and networking that you meet through painting, and it's like I always call it just the gift of painting, where you can, I guess, have these amazing chats with people and inspire people, and open your world up to other new things and establish awesome relationships. And that's just a product of what painting can do. Yeah, and if someone likes it and buys it, I think that's all the bonus. Just like with the process painting, man, like it's a bonus that you can get it to a point where people like it, because you can forever do it. But if you're not very mindful about trying to sell it or be marketable with painting and find something that people really like and something unique too, something that, it's different. And I also understand that that's quite a challenge too, because that can be very hit and miss, but I think you got to keep trying anyway and just keep doing it. And like Instagram, like that's always just going to be the platform. I suck at it. I've had a homie doing it for the last few months. He did just help me out and been getting photos. And honestly, he's been such a blessing. Put my mentality at ease with crap that world is, but it's necessary.
Yeah, it is a necessary evil, isn't it?
That's it, though. But also, like I think I want to work harder to just employ people to do that stuff for me too. And I don't, even like tying back to earlier, like, I understand what my skill sets are and what I'm good at, and if I just focus on that, then I fully believe that I can bring enough into my life where I'm able to also bring others into my life and help them in ways. And ultimately, I'd love to eventually, just have people around me where they can also live off my art, and I'm producing, enough opportunities for all of us to eat and to, have fun and have an awesome life.
Yeah, sick, man. That's beautiful. I think that's that's a really good goal, man. You mentioned that you were sort of gearing up for a solo show. How's that all going?
Yeah, it's been pretty. I haven't got any paintings done. I have no canvases, none of that ready. But I'm doing all the media stuff and just getting all that sort of back end sorted before I move into painting the works.
Yeah,
I'm a little bit anxious, but also not, which is, I'm sure when I get into it, I'll have all the time in the world to be anxious and worry.
it's good to have a bit of anxiousness sometimes.
Totally. Like I can't wait for that moment, to be honest.
Yeah. Have you got a location?
Yeah, I got a location. It's in the valley.
Sick.
It's in a really cool building. It's not really. It's like this warehouse that will be leased soon, but before they move in, they're allowing me to do my own exhibition in there, and it will be a gallery eventually. But it's a beautiful building, man. Like incredible. I'm so honoured to have this spot.
So you'll be the first sort of artist to exhibit there, I guess.
Yeah, man.
Awesome, man.
And it's like high ceilings, red brick walls with you know, I'm going to be super stoked because I can do some massive paintings, like some heaps of large scale paintings, which will just frame that space beautifully and not be too overpowering. So yeah, that's in April. And yeah, I'm going to start working towards that, and there'll be plenty of hype, I guess, around how I promote this and what I start pumping out on the gram too, and taking people along with the journey. And I'm actually really excited towards it because it's going to push me into a different professional stage of being an artist and just documenting everything and having all this stuff tied into producing a body of work. And for me, it's going to be quite a interesting process putting out what I'm going to pour my heart and soul into these works, and I hope it just translates that when it comes time to showing.
I mean, how does it work? Do you get art that you've already done, or it sounds like you're going to do all the pieces that you'll be exhibiting they're going to be new pieces that you're going to create that you haven't created yet?
Yeah, I'm going to create a whole bunch of new work. Like all this work will be, I've sort of I know what I want to paint. I know all the works that I have to do. And in the show, like all these canvases for me, I've used like the multiple of 3 to do these works. So they're going to be big works. I'm going to do like a big 3x3 meter work, but just, I guess.
That's huge.
Yeah, I can in the space. It's massive. So I want to use this to my ability, but it's just going to be all new work, I think. Like I might add some old works in that I've had for a while that I'll probably just showcase rather than maybe sell. But yeah, it's gonna be an interesting. Like this is sort of what I've been really excited for, is to get into this headspace and create bodies of work and just, I guess, go through this process. Yeah, so it's really exciting. It's very new to me, but I'm also I'm very excited. I got a lot that I want to sort of pump out for this show, and hopefully I can make it all happen. I really want to bring a book out for this too. That just has a visual tangibleness of my work, and just notes and little sketches I've done in my sketchbooks, and so it's a lot, but I'm fucking keen to get into it.
Yeah, cool, man. Well, let me know when it's happening. You said April?
Yeah, April, man. I'm trying to land it on 420, but I think it'll be. Well, I think it'll be the 22nd of April.
Let me know. I'll speak to you in the weeks or months leading up or whatever, and yeah, I'd love to see the work, man. It's gonna be sick. I'm excited about that.
If you came up, that'd be dope.
Yeah, fucking oath. I was just thinking as you were saying that, like, fuck, I haven't even thought about sort of leaving New South Wales for a while because of COVID and everything. But yeah, I guess by that point, hopefully, you can move around freely in Australia again.
Yeah, man. I was going to say, and on a side note, it'd be kind of cool just to go do a piece, and I'm sure that another mutual friend of ours would be keen to too.
Have you looked into the NFT space and digital art and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at it. I semi-understand it to a degree. Yeah, I think I'll definitely do it, bro. Like that's just, I like trying things and seeing, already I look at it and just go like, I'll probably find this boring. Like I like the look of it. For one, I'm not a digital artist, and I've never been a digital artist. I don't like the digital world at all. Me and that world don't get along. I like organic worlds and smell, sensory life. But yeah, bro, like I think, I don't even look at it as art. I just look at it as a business. I mean, not to say that it's not art, but that's just how I look at it. It's, I don't know. I don't know. It's even weird talking about it. I get it. I understand it. You can make a lot of money from it. It could be this cool thing to your one-hit wonder to just get you on your feet to, if I've made, hypothetically, if I made one and sold it for a decent amount of money, I'd just use that to fund my physical art practice. I wouldn't keep doing it, but that's to say, who's to know what would happen then. But I just don't really like it, bro, to be honest. Like I look at some shit on it and think, oh, that's pretty cool. That looks cool. But I don't fuck with digital shit.
Yeah, I've had a look at some of it as well. It seems totally overvalued to me, but I'm not going to say that I totally understand something's value. Some of those things are just going for crazy amounts of money, and I have seen some pretty good Australian artists sort of moving into that world and doing some pretty cool stuff.
I mean, if this is the whole different thing. I wouldn't make a fucking NFT. There's no way I would do that. I wouldn't finish it. But if someone came to me and said, look, The only way I could do it honestly is just do an artwork, paint it, and then someone take that and make it into this other thing. And then honestly, I'd say yes, I've done an NFT before, but knowing very well I had nothing to do with it. I just painted a piece, and they did the rest. Yeah, like I'm all for that.
I think one of the interesting applications of it is when you buy something and you get an NFT with something that you buy. Like an artist will sell a piece of work, and then you also get some sort of digital equivalent with it. I think that sort of application is interesting, and I can sort of wrap my head around it. But the rest of it, I can't quite understand. I'm sort of with you.
Yeah, I don't even know if I really like. I'm not rushing to understand it either. I think that's how I feel. Like I'm not in this FOMO boat of like, oh no, I've got to make an NFT to fucking become an artist. Yeah, it just doesn't bother me. But yeah, but if it came into my life, I wouldn't knock it down. I'd just be like, all right, cool, let's do it.
For sure, man. I did see you drawing on like a tablet on that No One Network video that you had that's on YouTube. Do you use those much?
No, like I'll use them for commercial jobs and stuff.
Right.
Like honestly, I'll use them. I don't use them fully. Like I'll just use it to get probably the most of a composition about where I'm going to place things, and that's probably the extent of my own personal artwork is when I do that on a wall, or I use them like I'll paint and make a mess, and then I'll look at it in certain bits, and then I'll see what I see, and then I'll bring that. But I mean, yeah, for jobs and stuff, it's really good to show clients like, this is what I'm thinking, and this is what could happen.
True. For sure.
So I do use it for that stuff. My daughter loves drawing on it too. She loves playing around with Procreate.
Yeah. They look really cool. I don't have one, but they look quite fun.
Yeah, man, they're super fun, and honestly, like she can draw on it for ages and be in La La Land, so that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, better than just watching YouTube videos, I guess too. Well, much better. The Olympics are coming up in Brisbane in however many years, 8 years or something. Does that present any opportunities for someone like you or Mainline in terms of like full-on commercial artwork? I know you don't really lean towards that stuff. Does the city, the city's going to be sort of on a world stage. Does that present any opportunities for artists, do you think?
100%, bro. 100%. Yeah? I mean, like, I'll definitely throw my hat in the ring if I'm there, and definitely keen to get in a piece of that pie.
It doesn't, obviously it's not something that you would sit up and think about at night, but I mean, if it's there, I can assume guys like yourself will take that opportunity.
Yeah, and I'm not an idiot. Like, I'm not going to let my moral stands stand in the way of like financial opportunities all the time. And I think that's also like, you just got to know you have it in its place, and however you have it, you just got to be honest with yourself about what you're doing it for. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks about how you're doing it. It's all about how you feel, I think, especially with art and money. Like, that's one thing. So yeah, like I'll definitely be keen to start to go for some of that. And, if I get to paint my own stuff and, hope in 10 years time, bro, who knows? Like, if honestly, I would definitely do it for the money. But also, if I didn't need the money, I'd still just paint it anyway. That's I'd just say, give me a fucking wall. Like, I'm so keen to paint some shit for this and paint heaps. So yeah, like I'm neutral about it. Like, definitely keen to get in on it, but definitely also not going to be losing sleep at night.
Yeah, no, I can just imagine it would. I guess when such a big event comes to a city, and it's really cool that it's going to Brisbane. I think people have a lot of different opinions about the Olympics, and some people but whatever. But just the fact that so many eyeballs are going to be on the city, I think it's really cool. Because,
bro, that's honestly, like, in saying that, that's almost why I think, like, I really hope, like, in 10 years' time, if it was now, I'd be so keen just to paint some wild shit that I think about it in a funny way too. Like, imagine all these people from all over the world that come here and then come to Brisbane and be like, what do we do? Like, what's there to do? It's like a small country, city town, but like, I mean, 10 years' time will definitely be a fucking probably big city by then.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, like, you're coming from the world where we pretty much take bits and pieces of the world and we turn it into a watered down version of it. That when people might come here, they'll be like, "Oh fuck, it looks like our city, but just less something about it." It's just like something's missing.
Yeah, well, I mean, Brisbane, it's amazing the artists that come out of Brisbane, man. I mean, it's like,
oh, you're telling me, dude, it's fucking incredible. Phenomenal. It's incredible.
Yeah, and totally like a lot of them in the underground, not fully well known, but some of the street art and the graffiti and even outside of those worlds, it's amazing the spin that they put on their art.
So, are you familiar with the artist like CJ Hendry?
Nah, man, nah.
She's from Brisbane anyway. She's like, I only realized she was from Brisbane like not super long ago, or maybe like a year ago or something like that.
CJ Hendry.
Hendry, yeah, she does pretty much like photo realism with pencils.
True, I'll check it out.
Yeah, done a lot of. She's killing it. Anyway, when I found out she was from Brisbane, I was like, oh, fuck, that's so cool. But she doesn't practice here in Brisbane. She's in New York or in Brooklyn or somewhere. But yeah, it is crazy the amount of talent that has come from Brisbane. And not saying that Brisbane's bad. I think Brisbane's amazing. It's a great place to live, great place to like have your roots down. But culturally, we're just lacking so much that I get why artists, I guess at some point in their career, I guess it gets to the point where they just need to go somewhere that values culture a lot more and has opportunities for people to do crazier, bigger things. Or that's what I think the difference is. They're more wild overseas, where we like to control things a bit more here and have a safe outcome and have a nice nice cup of tea.
Yeah, it's all packaged up and in a sort of digestible form. A lot
done and dusted
artwork. Yep. Yeah. Do you think one day you'll look towards moving overseas?
No, like I'm definitely going overseas, but I don't want to move there. I think I'd love to just have a relationship with Europe and America where I can work there and then come home here and work here and because I love Australia and Brisbane, man. I'm so lucky in this place.
100%, man. Fucking oath. Well, look, man. I've just looked at my timer. I've had you for almost 2 hours now, so I really appreciate that. But I wanted to ask you just lastly, again, don't know if I asked you this last time, so I don't want to sound like an idiot, but what advice would you, if you could say something to younger artists that are moving into the art world or want to make a life out of art, is there anything that you can say to your journey and any advice you would have for them?
Get a part-time job. Just invest in yourself. It's really important. Meaning all that, like back yourself, believe in your work. Do good work as well. Push boundaries. But also I think, I don't know, it's hard to say because everyone's different. But for me, I think look outside of here. Look worldly. Don't just look up to artists that are just on your doorstep. Look everywhere. Be inspired by everything, not just art. And honestly, take a break from art. You can switch off and not talk about that shit and do something completely different to art every now and again, once a week. Don't think about it. Don't make it your whole life, because it will always be your life. But knowing when to switch that on and off, I think is quite a gift. And I think just don't give up. It's life. I think that's the thing too. It's a life journey. It's not some quick-witted, just because you made it this end of last year doesn't mean you're going to make it in the next month or two. It could work that way, but I think it's just, if you're in it for the long haul and you're in this for life, it's going to be a lot better to deal with how this journey goes, because it isn't something that's just like bang, 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 done. 4-year apprenticeship, off you go.
Yeah, you've said that a few times, man. That's really interesting. I think that's a really important point. Yeah, think of it as in a long-term way. It changes the whole sort of idea of the journey, doesn't it?
Well, man, I think you'd understand this. Like, if you love something, you're going to do it forever, aren't you? And I think that, and if you're going to mix that with money, then there's an extra weight of it mixed on top of how you got to be a bit smarter, because you're going to do it for life, no matter what. You don't stop skating because you're old. You get old because you stop skating. And, and that's just, I think that's the attitude. Because age doesn't matter, bro. Age doesn't matter for painting. You could be 11 years old and be a master painter, or be 30 or 50 years old and be a master painter. But it's lifelong.
Thank you for listening to the Lead Poison Podcast.
talking to me? Oh yeah? Huh? Okay. Huh?